HR Supply Chain, highlighting and showcasing solutions for the most complex challenges facing the industry in 21st century by our team of subject matter experts and mentors. Broadcasting every week, all year round, we will present the most up-to-date series of podcasts and webinars.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Bicara Supply Chain, the podcast. This is Rohadi, your host. Today's topic is about reflexive supply chain, and we have got now Rakesh Sinha. He is the expert and supply chain, and also founder and CEO for a company called Reflexive Supply Chain Solutions. So thank you so much for joining us, Rakesh.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Okay, so before we get into today's topic, can you please brief a little bit about your professional?
Yeah. So I'm an engineer MBA with a doctorate in supply chain. I have worked with Godrej Consumer Products in various capacities as head of manufacturing, head of projects, supply chain, marketing, strategy, and information technology. Now I have started my own consulting firm called Reflexive Supply Chain Solutions, which aims at helping supply chains of various companies become more agile and more responsive to the changing demand patterns in the market.
Okay, wonderful. So Rakesh, the terminology of reflective supply chain is something new for us. So what does it mean, the reflective supply chain exactly?
Yeah, if you look at the entire gamut of supply chain planning and supply chain execution, these are based either on demand forecast by the sales team or through a combined process of S&OP. The other option is to read the actual demand signals from the market, and many companies use a mix of both, forecasting as well as reading the actual demand signals. Now, as we know, forecasting is always going to be inaccurate, and companies are plagued with its implications, which are mainly two. One, that there are stockouts of the products at certain places, whereas the other places have excess stocks. So there is a mismatch of stocks, and we have what is famously called as a bimodal inventory distribution. The other implication is that a lot of customer orders go unfulfilled for lack of stocks at the right place. So this twin problem of high inventory and obsolete stocks leads to a lot of firefighting by the people involved in supply chains. So they are continuously, after expediting certain stocks and fighting with manufacturing and procurement to get the right inventory at the right place. Now, if we look at the reasons as to why this happens, there are basically three main reasons. One is the company's inability to capture the demand signals properly. So the company doesn't know on an ongoing basis what's the real consumer demand for its products. The second is in the area of response time. If the company is slow to respond to any accelerating demand, then it's unable to place the products at the right time, leading to stockouts and loss of sales. The third part is the flexibility of the supply chain. So all the elements of the supply chain, right from planning, manufacturing, sourcing, and distribution, have to be flexible so that the whole supply chain responds in a dynamic manner to the changing demand signals, which are going to be unpredictable. But we have to capture the actual demand signals and ensure that the supply chain is able to fulfill it. Now, this entire supply-demand synchronization is what the Reflexive Supply Chain Solutions is focusing on, which means that we would help the companies capture the pristine demand signals coming from consumers and run the entire supply chain planning and execution based on certain heuristics, which will ensure that the right products are available to fulfill the consumer demand. We would also help the companies improve their flexibility and have a fast response. The tools used are basically the tools used in theory of constraint and the demand-driven materials requirement planning. So TOC and DDMRP are really at the backbone of this reflexive supply chain solution. So that's what the whole offering is, and hope it improves the company's ability to capture more demand and thereby accelerate the top line of the company.
Yeah, awesome. So how can the reflective supply chain solve the problematic issue in supply chain processes?
Yeah, so basically it helps in improving the demand fulfillment, as I said earlier. It also helps in managing the entire supply chain with much lower amount of inventory, which means the working capital tied up in the company also comes down, plus the products are fresh when these are delivered to the consumers. At the same time, the obsolescence level in the supply chain is low and there is no firefighting in the entire supply chain.
Yeah. And then, Rakesh, how do you see the trend of supply chain in 2020 and the next 5 years from now?
Yeah, there are several trends emerging. One is that the consumers are getting more and more demanding. So they want larger assortments, different varieties, they want higher quality products, and they want their wishes to be fulfilled. So consumers are going to be more and more demanding in future. The second part is that the tolerance time of the consumers is coming down, which means if they want something, they want immediate gratification of their needs, they are unwilling to wait for even a day to get their items. And nowadays you see that some of the e-commerce platforms are promising delivery within 2 hours, within 1 hour, etc. So that's going to be in the future. That tolerance time will keep coming down. And the third item, which is very important, is that there will always be some startups who will fulfill all demands of consumers. Some of the demands look quite reasonable, and some of the demands as of now look quite unreasonable to a lot many people. So even if the demands are unreasonable, you can be assured that there will be some startups who would try to fulfill even those demands. So it's important that going forward, the companies do read the demand signals and improve their agility so that they are able to fulfill the consumer demand in a meaningful manner. So flexibility, fast response, agility, all that is going to be important if we want to be in touch with the consumers, listen to the consumers, and fulfill their demands on an ongoing basis.
Yeah. So this would be our last question on today's topic. What are the most important for winning the supply chain's competitiveness?
Yeah, first and foremost, we have to be focused on consumers. Instead of internal focus, we should devote all our energy to see what's happening in consumers' life, what type of demand is generated from the consumers, and how do we, as suppliers of products or services, fulfill those demands. So focus on consumers is going to be the key going forward. The second is, as and when the demand patterns change, how quickly do we capture the changes in demand pattern? So we need a mechanism to track the pristine demand signals, identify the patterns, and then rejig the entire backend supply chain to ensure that these demand signals are fully catered to. And the third is that we need to develop a supply chain which ensures very high level of availability of products when the consumers want it, and freshness of products, which means that the products should not be stale on the retail shelf. They should be of the latest manufacturing batches, and these are fresh in the hands of the consumers when the consumers want to buy it. Yeah. So these are going to be important going forward, and companies which are able to deliver these three items are going to be the winners at the marketplace.
Very nice. Thanks, Rakesh, for sharing with us today, and see you next time.
Yeah, thanks.
At Bichara Supply Chain, we are committed to driving global perspective to embrace technological adaptation in improving process efficiencies. Don't forget to subscribe, like and share Bichara Supply Chain. And stay tuned for the latest updates. To learn more, visit our website www.bicharasupplychain.com. Thank you for listening to us. We look forward to seeing you at our next episode.